Hello, friends. My name is Melissa Majors. For those of you who haven't met yet, I am a leadership expert. I've been in the business a long time, and I typically talk about leadership lessons, but we're going to expand that because, honey, I've been navigating all sorts of life and leadership lessons during my journey. And today, being the head of Melissa Majors Consulting, I couldn't do what I do without my business partner, Aisha Houston. Say, hey, Ish.
Hello, everyone.
And by the way, I call her Ish because that's her nickname because she's also my niece. So I am blessed not only to work with her, but to have her as a family member. And she and I, we yin and yang really well because I'm like super high level strategic and she pulls out all those details. And in the conversations that she and I have just about life, she really made me realize there's some lessons in there that I typically don't share from the stage that I probably should share. So, in this conversation or this series of conversations, I'm going to share some experiences I've had over life. And then also, Ish and I are just going to talk about them, and she'll ask interview questions, go even deeper. She has her ear open to what's happening also with many of you. We'll incorporate those things that I think you really need to hear about. And so today we are going to talk about a choice fund. Now, typically you would hear this called a rainy day fund or, a savings fund, but as a result of saving, it has given me a lot more choices in life and at work. And so I want to talk to you about choice fund and the importance of that. Ish, what did I miss? What should we also share with them before we dive in?
I think really why we decided to do the podcast,
Mhm.
um, because the book Help Them Thrive really kind of it talks about how your passion is to coach people and help them to really thrive. So I think this podcast kind of allows us to go deeper in
Mm,
what it really means for people to thrive
thank you.
outside of leadership. So
It just in life in general, life and leadership and all the things, right?
right, right.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned before, that choice fund really helped me thrive in some sticky situations. And so I grew up in financial services. Like I started off at Nationwide Insurance. I moved to an investment firm down in Dallas, Texas. So I spent the early part of my career being exposed to financial planning concepts. Now, let me tell you though, I was the person in college that absolutely wrecked their credit. When those credit card companies called me, I had a pair of shoes I needed to buy, honey. So I was quick to open those envelopes and say, yes. They predatory lending with young adults. It's so tragical. I got caught up in it. I had a whole lot of cute shoes, but I had a lot of bills that I couldn't pay either. And so I truly, I got tired of getting denied for credit. I get tired of the past due notices coming in the mail and all that. And so taking all the lessons I learned from being in financial services with this situation that I was in, I was like, I got to make a change. I absolutely do. And that was the catalyst for me to start savings. And I'll talk more about how and why you can get started. But essentially, I was able to save up a good 6 months of living expenses. And I've had to cash in on that choice fund several times in my life. And I want to tell you about the few that I did. And the first one was I'm married now to a wonderful man, but he is my second husband. And when I first moved to Dallas, I didn't know anybody else. I was the only one, didn't have any friends or family here in Dallas. And so I started dating this guy, and seemed like he had it all together and he was wonderful and fell in love and got married. And then really shortly after that, I realized, oh boy, I think I made a decision out of loneliness
Yeah.
and not with real critical thinking. And
Right.
so I had to get out of that pretty quickly, filed for divorce, and he and I were still friends. Like, so the point was I was going to continue to live in the house until I got my own house. And then we would just go our separate ways and everything would be fine. Well, during that time, something changed, as in most breakups do. It gets really nasty and toxic. And I
Mm.
found myself on a business trip in St. Louis. And I got a call from my ex-husband, my husband at the time, but I got a call from him when I was in St. Louis. And he said, Melissa, don't ever come back to this house again. And if you come back to this house, I'm going to hurt you. And you know I mean it.
Wow.
I was all that I had. was what was in my suitcase and what was in my bank account.
Right.
And I had called some friends when I was in St. Louis out of desperation, like, I'm in this situation, can I stay in your
Right.
place for a couple days till I figure it out? And the people I thought were my friends really proved that they weren't, because nobody opened their door for me.
Right.
But who was a friend to me was me. Because before that situation, I had stashed some money away.
Right.
And as a result of that, I was able to take my little suitcase and cash some money out of my bank account and check myself into a hotel for another month until I was able to get into my home. That was the first time I cashed into that choice fund. Imagine what it would have been like for me, homeless, and
Right.
not
Right.
have that choice fund to cash into, to
Right.
tap into. But I
Right.
did. And that was the first time that I saw the real value of saving.
Right.
The second time, fast forward, got a divorce, got remarried, had my first baby. It was wonderful. And I took the maximum time off for maternity leave. And at the time, I was an executive for an investment firm, one of the only women at the top of the company. And so I took about 3 months off with my first baby. And then the Lord and my husband bamboozled me again. And I got pregnant when my youngest was only 6 months old. And, I started to show and was like, oh, gosh, I got to go tell them that I'm going to have another baby. And I remember I shared it with my boss and I shared it with the executive team. And I won't share names of the comments to protect the guilty, Aisha. But what I can say is that I heard things like, yeah, we're not used to executives taking maternity leave. Well, no wonder there's hardly any women on the executive
Right.
team, and all of their wives are at home having babies and don't work. Like, this
Right.
is how children come into the world.
Right.
So I heard that. And then just the sentiment about me being out again, the
Right.
nerve of me being out again on maternity leave. And it was just stressful. And I was like, what am I going to do? I've got my unborn child. There was a whole lot of money ahead if I would have stuck it out, because we were in the process of selling the company. But I made a choice because I had a choice.
Right.
Either I put my unborn child through all this stress, work stress,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
potentially damage him for life,
Mhm.
or I can cash out on that choice fund and take some time off to focus on my growing family. And
Right.
that's exactly what I decided to do. But I empathize with so many people who are in a situation where they have to continue working because they don't have a choice fund. Imagine what that does to their life. Imagine what that would have done to my baby.
Right.
So I cashed in on it then. And another time, which this is, you've never heard this, I've never shared this story before, Ish, but my
Okay.
mom, my mother, wonderful woman, wonderful. She worked the same job for close to 35 years. Impeccable performance record, like the one person at this company that everybody could depend on and could trust and go to. A new boss came in, there was some changes in the leadership ranks, and long story short, within about 60 days of her getting this new boss, they let her go. After 35 years on this job, they let her go.
Wow.
And she walked out with her head held high and she said, I don't stay where I'm not welcome. But that sudden change in employment put my
Mhm.
parents in a situation where they needed to have choices and
Right.
didn't have the choices. But guess what? I did.
Yeah.
And so, because I had a choice fund, I was able to help them in their time of need.
Mm.
So, you hear about importance of savings and all that. Relabel that, it's the
Yeah.
importance of having choices in
Right.
life. As a result of having those choices, my son is healthy. As a result of having choices, my parents are back on their feet again. As a
Right.
result of having choices, I was able to take care of myself when there was nobody else to take care of me.
Right.
And so I share that with everyone because it's so important to save so that you have these choices in life.
I have to be honest, like I never considered it a choice fund. I always looked at it as like the task of saving 6 months, like you because you just have to do it. So this I kind of like honestly giving it a label as a choice fund humanizes it. Like with
Mm.
everything you're teaching about, being human, it humanizes it because it makes it like more relatable as to why you need the choice fund. Like it we know emergencies happen, and when emergencies happen, we do need to tap into that fund. But when you say choice fund, there's so many other reasons other than just an emergency where this is helpful. So
Yes.
I really thank you, because I've never heard it labeled that way. And that brings more importance to me because it gives me a choice.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it helps you prioritize it,
Yeah,
right?
it does. It
But
does.
I tell you, when I first started, I didn't think of it as a choice fund. It was
Right.
just, I'm doing what the industry said I'm supposed to do, which is save
Exactly.
6 months of expenses just in case, that
Right.
rainy day fund. But I've never had a rainy day, but I've needed choices.
When did the verbiage for choice, like when did that come about? Like how did you realize this is a choice fund?
Yeah.
Because when you first started, like in college, it was more like I don't want to live like this. I have to, you know. So when did you realize that this is more than just, emergency? This is giving me choices and I
Mm.
like it.
Well, I got to be honest with you. I didn't label a choice fund until after I'd already tapped into all those scenarios. Literally all happened. And when I reflect back over my life, I realize it was the saving that gave me choices.
Hmm.
So as I teach this concept, I wanted to relabel it as something that's based on the end result. So it doesn't feel like a task, because when you're
Right.
saving, it comes with sacrifice. Like,
Right.
do I go to Starbucks and get that delicious $7 drink that I really want? Or do I have my coffee at home and put that $7 in the savings? And I was recently teaching this to a group of young women in California. We talked about the choice fund, and one of the women came up to me later and she says, my mother took care of all of us, and there's like 6 kids on a minimum wage salary. And she did it because of sacrificing a penny at a time.
Hmm.
But you just have to be intentional about it and prioritize it and look for those sacrifices that you can make. For example, do you need to go out and get a $200 hairdo or spend $150 on a pair of sneakers? Or can you make just a little sacrifice to put some of that into your choice fund instead?
So how does that, because I we talked about how um well, I stumbled across this looking at your past videos on leadership lessons.
Yeah.
And it was money management, one of the lessons. And I was very curious as to how you would tie that in with leadership. Like, how do you do that? And when I started to listen to what you were mentioning, what really stuck out to me was that piece about your morals
Mm,
and not cashing in, the dollar. And I just was like, I never thought of it that way. And I would like to hear you say more about that. Like
yeah.
how did you, like when you had that experience at work and you didn't let the money phase you?
Yeah, it's a great question.
That's so good.
I'm so glad you teased it out, because that's really a forced scenario where I had to cash in my choice fund. But what I have found is, because I had that money saved when I was working as a leader, I'm making decisions in the best interest of the people that I serve
Right.
versus preserving my own paycheck.
Right.
And I've seen a lot of leaders who make decisions that aren't really ethical, don't align to their values, because they need that next paycheck. Well, when you're working because you want to, not because you need to, it frees you up to make better decisions and be in service of others instead of being self-serving. And
Right.
what Aisha, the scenario she's mentioning is one that I describe in my book, Help Them Thrive, where I was working for a company that I loved my team, I loved the mission, and we were amazing at what we had done. When I first started the company, the team was an absolute fixer-upper, absolute fix. Everything needed to be touched and transformed. Well, fast forward 2.5 years, this team really reinvented themselves and they transformed everything. So we went from a fixer-upper to winning industry awards in 2.5 years. And the good news was we were getting all these accolades and buzz about what we had done. But the bad news is we were getting all sorts of accolades and buzz for what we had done. Well, it caught the attention of a senior leader in the organization who wanted to know more about what we were doing. So she asked my current boss, the boss at the time, hey, can I talk to Melissa to find out what's going on in her team, what she's doing? He was like, yes, absolutely. She'd love to share. So we have this conversation, and Aisha, within just a few minutes, I could tell she felt threatened. She
Yeah.
felt intimidated by my team's success because she saw me as somebody as lesser than.
Mm,
Because she saw me as lesser than, she actually became envious of
mhm.
our success. And I could feel that. It doesn't take
Yeah.
long to pick up on those vibes, right? So in 30 days, she politicked her way using privilege and her connections to ultimately take over my team and have me report to her.
Mm,
And within the first week of working for her, she came and asked me to do something unethical. She said, I want you to find a way to outsource your entire team, preferably to some of these partners that you brought in from India and other companies.
yeah.
And I was like, what problem are we trying to solve here? Like, why would you ask me to do something like that? We've been really successful.
Right.
And she said, you're the path to figuring this out. I was like, okay. So I went home that weekend. I talked to my husband. I was like, I've been asked to do something that I'm not willing to do, something unethical. And his response to me was, I trust your decisions. Do whatever needs to be done. So I went back in the office on that Monday and I told her that although in theory, I know she thinks that this idea is tenable and it's good,
Right.
but that it won't work because our team just the whole team could not be outsourced. We had outsourced everything that we could already, and
Mhm.
that this would implode everything that we had accomplished.
Right.
And I said, and furthermore, it's not going to work. But secondly, I am not the leader that is going to sabotage the
Yeah.
careers of all these people that
Yeah.
have worked their ass off to get where we are.
Right.
I'm
Right.
not that leader. So you're going to have to
Right.
find somebody else for that job. So,
Yeah.
boom, I could stand up for my values and stand up for the people who work for me because I had a
Wow.
choice.
That is
I had a
so
choice.
powerful.
Thank you.
That
Yeah.
is so powerful because I don't, well, from my experience, I don't even know that most leaders have that mindset to even keep that at the front of their brain. Like
Mhm.
that that I'm gonna make this choice. And
Mm.
to kind of I don't save the lives, I guess,
Yeah.
of those who work so hard. Like that's that speaks a lot to your character too.
Thank you. Thank you
It,
very much. Um, I can empathize with a lot of leaders who don't have the choice.
right,
I got kids to pay, I got to put food on the table. I got tuition to pay for. I got a house note to cover and all that kind of stuff. And if you don't have choice, you end up
right.
making decisions. You cash in your values for your paycheck
Without realizing though.
without realizing it.
And that's what I mean. Like it's not at the front of your brain because you don't have the choice. So you don't even think about it.
That's right.
So you
That's
don't
right.
even realize it. But when the choice is there and
You
you
can make
know
better,
why it's there,
yeah, you can make better decisions.
right?
Yes, that are not self-serving, that are in the interest of others.
That's so good.
Thank you. Thank you. So those are, I just spilled it. Those are the different ways that I've cashed in on it. It's hard though. Even today, you have to be intentional about putting that money away. Even if it's just a couple of dollars, just continue to do it and you'll see it accumulate and not only build wealth, but I think having choice
Yeah.
is wealth. And it
Yeah.
also goes to just, I sleep well at night for the leadership decisions that I've made because I've had choices,
Right.
you know?
It kind of to me it feels like it gives you there's comfort there in knowing that the choice is there. It's
It's
comfort
huge.
knowing that, like you said, you can sleep at night because the comfort is there for you to make the choice if you need to.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
never realized it. I looked at it that way.
Yeah. Well,
I
I'm
always
glad we're having this conversation.
me
And I'm
too.
glad we can share it with everybody else. And
Yeah.
hopefully this inspires someone to start saving, to build that choice fund so that they can be in a position to thrive.
Yes.
That's the whole point.
Yes.
Yes. Well, friends, that concludes our broadcast today. I hope that you were able to pick up a tip that will help you continue to thrive in life. And if there is a scenario or a story or want to hear from you on how this impacts you, send us a note to hello@melissamajors.com. Aisha and I both are we're so grateful that you tuned in, and we are here in any way that you need. If there's something we can do to help you thrive, let us know. See you next time.